Good morning and welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. Today I'm going to tell you how to deal with fear. We spoke about fear yesterday, but fear is fatal and it will stop you, it will kill you, it will destroy any chance you have of achieving your dreams. And I'm going to tell you how to deal with it, how to face it, how to confront it right after this. You have to be strong enough to endure these things. You have to approach women. With today's social media, she's constantly being hit on. Women are always in the game. You have to stay focused. We are men. That's what we do. Let's get on with it. Fear. Fear. If there is a devil, it's doubt and fear. Fear destroys. Fear eliminates. Fear dissolves any kind of belief or faith you have in yourself. Let me give you an example. The last 2 years, let me see, when did it start? In 2020. The world was filled with fear. The media peddled fear. And many people bought into the fear. How many people lost everything because of fear? And what were they really afraid of? They were afraid of what might happen. They were afraid of what they were told was happening. When in reality, things may not have been as they seemed. And now that everything is past, what has changed? The media has downplayed the fear. It's not as relevant. It's not being put in your face every day over and over. But look at the problems. Look at the trouble that this fear caused. Fear allowed the governments of the world to control people in a way they have never been controlled before. When people are in fear, they readily abandon their will, their selves, sometimes their common sense, to a higher authority that promises to help them and keep them safe. We each have our own guidance system. But if we allow fear to get into us like a cancer, we throw that guidance system out the window and rely on the people who supposedly know best. And we grasp at whatever they throw to us as a man out in the ocean grasping for a life preserver that someone threw to him, thinking that we can be saved by someone else's decisions, those people who know best. But how many of us, including myself, really know how severe the situation was? None of us know, actually. We know what we were told. Now, am I a conspiracy guy? No, I'm not. But I am an agenda man. And people are motivated by agendas. Governments, media, big farm, many people. If you look at the profits behind the situation, who made the most money? Who profited? Who became famous off of it? All these things play into people's actions, people's decisions. Throughout the ages, certain people in high positions have used fear to control people. It's a psychological tactic used by people in the service, governments, CIA, different organizations such as that. It's amazing what they can do. Hitler used fear of the Jewish people. He got everyone to be angry at the Jewish people. The economy problem in his country was because of Jewish people. And look at the atrocities that were committed there, because he used fear to manipulate the people. These things happen all the time. Now, during this crisis of the last couple of years, I never once walked out my door and saw people lying in the street, bleeding at the mouth, gasping for breath, dying from some terrible, how would I say, thing. But the way the media played it up, that was exactly how it was, maybe even worse. I know personally 2 people who passed away from the situation, but actually I only know that I was told they were passed away from that. One of them was 97, and one of them was younger than me, but he had ruined his health and lungs. He was already in a nursing home from doing drugs all his life. He was a friend of mine I grew up with. So if I look at what I see, it doesn't correspond to what I had heard on the media, which I didn't watch very much. I watched very little. I know many people who supposedly contracted the problem, I'll say it that way. I have to be careful what I say here. And they got by just fine. Some said that it was about like having a cold. Some said they would rather have that than the flu. So the evidence does not support what the media propagated or the government propagated, the governments around the world. So what was the situation? Was it blown up? Did they make a mountain out of a molehill? Maybe none of us will ever know, but some people are convinced that it was the worst thing that ever happened and it will go down in history. I have to disagree with that. I've lived 61, almost 62 years, and yes, it was the worst thing that ever happened, but it wasn't the, how do I say, it wasn't the flu. That was the worst thing that ever happened, because to me it was just another flu. But it was blown up. The worst thing that happened was the way they allowed, or the way it was allowed to be used to control the people. Many people lost their businesses, many people lost family members and weren't allowed to even bury them. To me it was incredible. But I say this, the people allowed it to happen because of their fear. They allowed their lives to be turned over to those who supposedly know best. And now those who supposedly know best tell us it's up to us to decide now to risk, how did they say it? To assess our own risk. It's our decision now. Well, that's mighty nice of them to give us the choice to make our decisions now. I did that the whole time. I did not participate in the fear. Now, to say I was never afraid would be a lie, because I was somewhat. I did take extra precautions when this thing first began. I washed my hands. I wasn't a mask wearer. I only wore one when I had to. And yes, I care about other people. But as I looked around and I saw the evidence did not support what the media said. Oh, that's a big surprise, isn't it? Can you believe that the media might be blowing something up to get us to watch more media, more news? No, they wouldn't do that, would they? They wouldn't play on our fears, would they, to get ratings up? No, they've never done that. What's incredible to me is so many people believe that, but yet believe what they said, but yet if you talk to them on the street and ask them, do you believe what the media says? No, I don't. Do you believe the government? No, of course not. Do you trust the government? No. Do you trust the media? No. But yet, I said this before, if they came out tomorrow and said we're being invaded by Martians, but if you buy Reynolds wrap and put a little tinfoil beanie on your head made out of Reynolds wrap, you'll be okay. They won't bother you. They can't get to you. Now that sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, it's not more ridiculous than what we saw in the last couple of years. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my area where I live was just blessed and we didn't have the problems. Or maybe it was all these incentives, such as the hospitals getting, I was told this, like, you check this out yourself. So much money for each patient that had this, how would I say, infection? So I don't know. You have to decide for yourself what is right for you, of course. I'm not against anybody if they got the shot or if they didn't get the shot. That's up to you. I just don't like making decisions based on fear. It never works out well because that's the opposite of faith and belief. And I'm not a religious guy, but faith and belief are the same thing, and I just didn't buy into all this, and I just didn't believe it. None of us really know, unless you're a scientist or a doctor or a biologist, I think, or a person who studies diseases. You really don't know either. So who knows? I just know that fear is a destroyer. And if we allow ourselves to be guided by fear, manipulated by fear, controlled by fear, then you're certainly not running your own life. You're allowing fear to do it. And you're, how do I say, you're propelling or participating in the agenda of someone who I don't believe really has your best interests in mind. They have their own interests in mind. And who knows what those were. So, fear is something you need to be aware of. And it's always going to be there. Just don't allow yourself to be controlled by it. Ask yourself this question. What would you do if you weren't afraid? What would you do if you knew you would not fail? And do that instead of acting on your fears. Look around the world. Anybody who's extremely successful does not act on his fears. He does the opposite of what he's afraid of. So that's it for today. If you'd like to get my help personally, marksinspiration.com is my website. My email will be in the description. And if you like this video, you can hit the PayPal button and donate whatever you think the value of it is. And someone put on there the promoism. Yeah, well, I guess promoting myself. I had to look that up. Well, I give away a lot of free wisdom that I've learned throughout the years. You don't have to give me anything. That's okay. Am I promoting myself? I don't know. Maybe I am. Anyway, but if it helps you, who benefits? Both of us? You do? What does it matter? All right, I'm going to go. Take care. Thanks for joining me.